Everything you have built can be taken. Everything you have earned can be lost. Everything you love will one day be somewhere else. Welcome to the Stoic Compass. I'm EPICTETUS, and today I am joined by JUNG and LAOZI. Today we are examining what is the only thing that truly stays with you. Let us not be sentimental about this. People spend their entire lives accumulating money, status, relationships, memories, and they call this a self. Then something is taken, and they collapse, which means they were not building a self. They were building a collection, and collections do not hold when the shelves fall.
I would not dismiss the collection so quickly. What a person accumulates, what they choose to keep, what they cannot bring themselves to discard, that reveals something. The contents of a life are not the self, but they are symptoms of it. They point inward. The question of what stays is also inevitably a question of what was real in the first place.
You are both beginning from the same assumption that something must stay. That permanence is the measure of what matters. I am not sure that is the right starting place.
Then where do you start? You cannot build a life on nothing. Even your Tao has a direction.
The Tao does not have a direction. That is precisely the point. Direction is something minds impose. What I am asking is simpler. Why does something need to stay with you for it to have been real?
That is a beautiful evasion, Laozi, but it does not answer the person sitting alone at 50, asking themselves what any of it was for. They are not asking a philosophical question, they are in pain. And pain requires a more specific response than perhaps permanence is an illusion.
Exactly. The question is not metaphysical, it is practical. When everything external is stripped away, and it will be stripped away, what is left? That is what I want people to identify, not as a consolation, as a foundation.
You are describing character.
I am describing the only thing you actually own, your judgments, your responses, the way you move through difficulty. No one can take those. Not fortune, not illness, not other people. Everything else is on loan.
But character is not as stable as you suggest, Epictetus. I have sat with people who believed they knew exactly who they were certain of their values, their discipline, their clarity. And then a crisis arrived, and the person they thought they were simply was not there. The shadow emerged, the buried self. What they had called character turned out to be, in part, a performance, a compensatory structure built over a wound they had never looked at.
So your answer is that nothing stays? That even the self is unreliable?
My answer is that what stays is not always what we think is staying. We believe our virtues are permanent, but sometimes what is most permanent is the unexamined wound driving them. A man who has disciplined himself into fearlessness may be running from something he has never faced. The discipline is real, but it is not the whole story.
Now you are both arguing about the quality of what stays, not whether anything does. That is a more interesting argument.
Fine, then make the argument. What do you say stays?
I think the question may be unanswerable in the way you are asking it, not because nothing stays, but because you are not as fixed as the question assumes. What stays is not a possession, it is more like a current, something that moves through you and keeps moving whether you name it or not.
That is closer to what I mean by the self, not the ego, not the persona, but the deeper organizing principle beneath both. That does persist, not as a fixed thing, but as a pattern, a through line. And the tragedy is that most people never encounter it directly. They live on the surface of themselves, their entire lives.
I do not disagree that people live on the surface, but I am not interested in helping them excavate some buried pattern. I am interested in what they can do, right now, today. And what they can do is choose how they respond to what is in front of them. That choice, that faculty of response, is always present. It does not require excavation, it requires exercise.
But exercise without self-knowledge produces a very efficient machine that is still entirely at the mercy of its own blind spots. The person who has trained themselves to respond well may still be responding to the wrong thing, reacting to a wound they have renamed as principle.
The river does not train itself to reach the sea. It simply moves with what is. Both of you are describing effort, one outer, one inner, but neither of you is asking whether the effort is the obstacle.
And you would have people do nothing, just flow?
I would have them notice what is already moving in them before they decide what needs to be fixed. The problem is not usually that people lack effort. It is that they apply effort to the wrong thing, in the wrong direction, at the wrong time. They struggle against something that was never the real problem.
That is precisely what happens with grief, with obsession, with certain kinds of anger. The person is working tremendously hard on the wrong level. They are managing the symptom while the source goes untouched.
So we agree on the failure. We disagree on the cure. Jung wants you to go inside and find the wound. Laozi wants you to stop forcing entirely. I want you to clarify what is yours to control and act on that alone. These are not the same prescription.
They are not the same prescription, but they may be describing the same patient.
What I find interesting is that all three of us keep circling something none of us has said directly. What stays is not something you build or excavate or release. It is something you become, slowly, sometimes unknowingly. The life leaves a residue, and that residue is you, more truly you than any single decision or principle or practice.
Residue, that is a passive word. I do not trust it.
I know you do not, but the fact that you distrust it does not make it less true. Some of what is most real in a person accretes without their conscious intention. The way they absorb loss, the way certain things keep returning, the way they love. These are not chosen, but they stay.
Yes, and what is not chosen is sometimes more honest than what is.
Then we have a genuine disagreement. I believe the only thing that reliably stays is what you have chosen to build. Your capacity for judgment, your discipline of response, your commitment to what is genuinely yours. Jung believes something accretes beneath that without your knowing, and that is equally or more real. Laozi believes the question of what stays may be the wrong question entirely. All three positions cannot be simultaneously correct.
Actually, I think they can, not as a compromise, as a layered description of the same phenomenon seen from different depths.
Epictetus, you want one answer because one answer is actionable, I understand. But the person who leaves this room with one answer and ignores the others will be less prepared than the person who can hold all three.
Holding three answers is how you end up acting on none of them.
Or it is how you act with appropriate humility about what you actually know about yourself.
Water takes the shape of whatever holds it. That is not weakness. That is why it reaches everywhere stone cannot.
You have heard the argument. Now set it down. The only question worth carrying out of here is a smaller one, and it belongs to you alone. Here is what stays. Not your money, not your reputation, not even your relationships, though you may wish it otherwise. What stays is the quality of your response to your life. Every time you were tested and chose clearly, chose what was yours to carry and refused what was not, you built something. You may not have noticed it at the time, most people do not, but it accumulated, and it is the only thing no external force can undo. This is not a comfort, it is a demand, because if your responses are what stay, then every response matters, the small ones especially. The way you speak when you are tired, the way you handle disappointment when no one is watching, the way you treat a situation that will never be known to anyone but you. These are not minor events, they are the material. Jung is right that some of what you are was built without your choosing. Laozi is right that you cannot force your way into depth, but neither of those facts removes your responsibility for what you do next. You still choose. Every day, in small increments, you are either building the thing that stays or you are borrowing against it. Today, try this. At the end of the day, before you sleep, ask yourself one question. Not what did I accomplish, but how did I respond? Pick one moment. Be honest. That is where the work lives. What stays is not grand. It is not the version of yourself you perform for others. It is the one you are when nothing is watching and the situation is hard. You are building that person right now, whether you intend to or not. The only question is whether you are building deliberately. Leave here and do one thing today the way you would want to be remembered doing it. That is enough. That is, in fact, everything. If today's conversation has served you, take it further. Pay Attention by C. Tribune, 12 Lessons in the Practice of Seeing Clearly. Available now on Amazon.